हेलो फ्रेंड्स, आज हम लोग स्वामी विवेकानंद के एजुकेशनल फिलॉसफीज को जानेंगे. टुडे वी विल स्टडी अबाउट द फिलॉसफीज ऑफ स्वामी विवेकानंद. So we all know about him. So Vivekanand was a great philosopher, thinker, and educational philosophy of Swami Vivekanand is very modern and relatable to the present world. So we start with the quotation of Swami Vivekanand, who says, "Be obedient and eternally faithful to the cause of truth, humanity, and your country, and you will move the world." So he believed in obedience, faithfulness, and fighting for the cause of truth, humanity, and for the country. So he was a great patriot too. So we start. It is saying of Swami Vivekanand, "Arise, awake, and stop, not till the goal is reached." So you have to do your work with perseverance so that you can achieve your goal. Swami Vivekanand was born on 12th January 1863 in Calcutta. That time it was Calcutta, now it is known as Kolkata. His full name was Narendranath Datta, and he was born on 12th January, and that day is celebrated in India as Youth Day, and he died on 4th of July 1902 at Belur Math of Howrah. So Swami Vivekanand was not only a social reformer but also the educator, a great Vedantist and patriot prophet of India. So he was Vedantist. What does it mean? He was believer of Advaitwad. He believes in one Almighty God, and he was educated and patriot also, who sought to modernize the nation of its social and cultural harmony. So he was in favor of modernization along with carrying the traditional culture and heritage of India. He was a Hindu monk. He was the chief disciple of 19th century India's mystic Ramakrishna Paramhans. If education is viewed as the most powerful instrument of social change, his contribution to the educational thought is of paramount importance because Vivekanand's thought brought social change in the country. So he defines education as the manifestation of perfection that is already in man. So we are what we see. All Indian philosophers have laid emphasis on the development of and inherent qualities, what is inside us, or perfection that is already in man to make it public, to manifest it or to develop the inner qualities. So according to him, education is a continuous process. It should cover all aspects of life, whether it is physical, mental, material and intellectual, emotional, moral and spiritual. Please correct it. It is not material, it is mental. Okay, so it is physical, mental, intellectual, emotional, moral and spiritual. My epic pen is not working, so I can't correct it. I have corrected the voice, and pen will be corrected by Monday, so you have to correct. Please do it. His attitude towards modernization is that the masses should be educated before anything else is done. So he said, कि masses education of masses is necessary to uplift the country. If masses of the country are educated, then country will prosper because then all will contribute to the development of the country. So his education thought was of very great significance today because modern education has lost much of its connection with the values of human life. Modern education has has become self-centered and making people selfish. So his educational thoughts are of great importance in modern day. Therefore, he suggested that education should not be for stuffing some facts into the brain. Same was the thought of Aurobindo also. So, but should aim to reform human mind. So he was of the opinion that education should reform the human mind. So it should not be computer type only collection of data or this information. So true education is to not for career. Here also career is typo error. So it is CAREER. Okay, please correct it. I am dead. But for the contribution to the nation, the great religious saint and social reformer died in 1902. I had said earlier, so he was very young when he died. He was only 39 years old. If he could have lived for more than more years, then he could have brought many reforms to the India. So Vivekanand was deeply influenced by Brahmo Samaj and his Guru Ramakrishna Paramhans, who regarded the absolute and relative reality to be non-dual aspect of same integral reality. According to Michael Taft and Ramakrishna reconciled that dualism of form. So one is in form. So what we say? Sagun and Nirgun. So form and formless. So Sagun is with form and Nirgun Brahm. It is the form of Brahma. Sagun Brahma is with form, like we worship our deity in the form of Ram, Sita, Shiv, and Nirgun is formless regarding the supreme being, regarding the God, Supreme Being, Almighty, to be both personal and impersonal, active and inactive. So he considered, he reconciled both form and formless and personal and impersonal, active and inactive. Vivekananda was the first among the disciples of Ramakrishna mission who was and trusted the duty of propagating the ideals and teachings of his guru. His guru has chosen him to propagate the ideals and teachings of his Ramakrishna Paramhans. So with this, and he established Ramakrishna Math in 1886 and Ramakrishna Mission in 1897. He was the key figure who introduced philosophies of Vedanta and Yoga in the Western world. So Vedanta and Yoga of India has been introduced to the Western world by Vivekanand. Swami Vivekanand was the first who introduced these things to Western world. Aims of education according to Vivekanand was first reaching perfection. So the main aim of education is to achieve extensive perfection. So perfection of what? Perfection of all those qualities which are already in man. So only man has to perfect them. Only human being has to perfect them. So education does the work to or make the qualities perfect. Fulfillment of Swadharma, creating self confidence, unity in diversity. Education should create unity amidst diversity, because India is a vast country, diverse type of culture, food, religions are there. So there should be unity. Character formation, physical and mental fitness, and moral and spiritual development and religious development. So these were the aims of education. So now we proceed further. Vivekananda's philosophies of education. What were his philosophies about education? So first one is knowledge resides within the individual. Knowledge is inherent inside the individual himself. The individual finds out this knowledge only by inside his education. When he gets education, when he is educated, he knows the knowledge already present inside him. Perfection is inherent in everyone. It is the function of education to lead one to perfection. Perfection is there, but education helps in reaching that perfection. Therefore, education should be made available to all. So, all persons should be given education. The child furthers its own development. According to Swami Vivekanand, it is wrong to think that we promote development of a child. In fact, he furthers his development himself. Nobody promote the development in any person, whether it is child or adult. So everyone develops according to his own nature. When the time comes, everyone will come to know this truth. So, do you think you can educate a child? No, never. The child will educate himself. Teacher's job is only to provide necessary opportunity to him and to remove the obstacles in the path. So, teacher is facilitated only. He will educate himself on his own. Child will educate himself on his own at his own pace. The plant, like plant grows itself. What gardener does only nurtures the plant, gives water, manure, and cares for that. So, like plant, child grows himself. So Vivekanand advocates self-education. Third, education according to the nature and needs of the child. So Vivekanand also emphasized on the individual difference of the children. So I said that education should be given to every child according to his nature and his need, and according to his ability also, according to his choice also. So all children are not equally good in maths, all are not equally good in English, and so that. So mm, curriculum should be such that all children can fulfill or can get their choice subjects and get perfection in that. So education should be child centered. If child's choice and interest can be taken in interest, then it will be child centered education, and education will be useful. So it only when it takes care of the need and nature of child. It is not the teacher or parents who will determine his needs and nature. His education should be patterned on the lines of his tendencies. The teacher has to visualize God in the soul of each child. So teacher should see God, visualize God in the soul of child. So because all are equal, and there is God's soul or Atma in every child. So all are equal. So physical entity is only like a cloth. So each child should be considered as manifestation of God. In fact, we have to serve God, therefore we have to serve each child. The ability to concentration is the essence of education. For acquisition of knowledge, concentration or attention is very necessary. For success in life also, concentration is necessary. So everybody cannot concentrate in similar way, because all have different abilities. So with the help of this power, one can acquire useful knowledge and arrange it in mind for use whenever necessary. And according to Swamiji, the prime aim of education was spiritual growth and development. But he never said that only spiritual growth is required. Material prosperity and physical well-being is also necessary. So he feelingly advocated the inclusion of all those subjects and activities in the curriculum which foster material welfare as well as spiritual advancement. So, for spiritual perfection, Swamiji prescribed religion, philosophy, Upanishad, company of saints, and their preachings. So, spiritual development, religion, philosophy, Upanishad, company of saints should be included, and for material advancement, prosperity, he recommended the subjects like languages, geography, science, political science, economic, psychology, art, agriculture, industrial and technical subjects together with games, sports and physical exercise. Now role of teacher. About role of teacher, Swamiji said, that teaches a person with an attitude of renunciation influence children through his ideal example. So teachers should present themselves as an ideal example before the child. They should love his students, sympathize at their difficulties, and teach according to their needs and abilities and interests. It will and contribute to their spiritual development can be a good teacher. A student should have inclination or how the student will be should be according to Vivekanand. Students should have inclination or eagerness to learn. They should observe celibacy. They should have control over their senses. They should have follow the ideals laid down by his teachers. So according to Swamiji, true teacher is he who can immediately come down to the level of students and transfer his soul to the students' soul. So it means to he meant to say that teachers should connect with heart and soul with the child. So a teacher must be a tyagi or man of renunciation. He should act like substitute of parents and he should love children like parents and he should have personal love for students which will help him to transmit spiritual force. Swamiji advocates that education should develop patriotism and freedom also. For achieving this, curriculum should provide three things: love for motherland, a strong will to resist evil, and steadfastness in achieving desired good. He also emphasized on physical education as the important item of education because it should be if physical education is included in the curriculum, the person who it make students physically strong and who are physically strong, who will become physically strong, can realize the self and wanted Indian students to learn their own language, particular Sanskrit and English to keep pace with the current time. Method of teaching. Swami Vivekanand prescribed that same ancient spiritual method of teaching where guru and disciples lived in a close association. So he was also in favor of Gurukul type of education like Aurobindo was. The essential characteristic of these religious and spiritual methods were come under as concentration, meditation, lectures, discussions, self-experience, creative activity, individual guidance by the teacher. He says that education must focus on the requirement of human mind. His philosophy of education is based on universal principle of morality and ethics. So he has equally stressed on morality and ethics as well. So he included moral education and ethics in the curriculum also. He wanted to teach common masses of India the ideals of synthesis, tolerance and universal harmony. So he was also in favor of universal international brotherhood. So his philosophy gives equal importance to the claims of spirit and matter. To him, diversity is as real as unity. Vivekananda wants to place maximum emphasis on concentration and meditation in teaching learning process, and he also emphasized on practice of yoga and five elements are essentially to be involved in education. He said teacher, taught, the aim of education, the subject and the method. So these five elements are important. Teachers should help the children in developing critical thinking, scientific temper in students. Then he stressed on method of realization, which means that realization is as the chief aim of life. He advocated yoga as the most ideal method of realization. Yogas are four: Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raj Yoga or Gyan Yoga. The scope of all these is same: removal of ignorance and enabling the soul to restore original nature. And discussion and contemplation method was also emphasized by Swamiji, this idea has been brought from ancient education Gurukul system. Vivekanand said discussion and contemplation to be followed in education, and children like to imitate, so he also stressed upon imitation method. where teachers should present higher ideals and nobler ideas so that the students can imitate and become a good soul or good person. Activity method. Swamiji accepted learning through activities as an ideal method of teaching because it can provide longer knowledge and students learn a lot through activity method. So he advocated the introduction of activities like excursion, camps, etc. so that they can understand the team social values like team spirit, cooperation, interdependence, and helping attitude. Swami Vivekananda emphasized upon the value education also and environment education to protect the environment and citizenship education so that they can become a good citizen and they will understand their duties and their rights. Social service was also an essential aspect of Vivekananda's idea and an innovation on which he deviated from Advaita Vedanta and Ramakrishna. He nevertheless attributed these ideas to both, trying to reconcile with his own idea. According to Vivekananda, an important teaching he received from Ramakrishna was Jiva is Shiva. What does it mean? Every Jeev, every living being is Shiva. So, every being is a living being is a has soul of good, God. So each individual has divinity in himself. So he stressed on Shiv Gyan Jiv Seva to serve common people, considering them as manifestation of God. So each person is the manifestation of God. So one should serve each and every person. According to Vivekananda, man is potentially divine. So service to man is service to God. In line with this influence of Western ideas, Vivekananda also in Western society, stress is emphasis is given on individual development. Each person has his individuality and which has to be respected. So he has stressed on individual importance also. Discipline. Undue domination and excessive authority would only stunt the natural growth of child. So he believes that obstructions and restriction, do and don'ts type things obstruct that child's natural growth. So it has to be restricted. If you don't allow a child to become a lion, he said, if you don't allow a child to become a lion, he will become fox. So, do's and don'ts have to be reduced, and the right environment must be created. Instead of trying discipline the child, teacher can set example with his own life. Every philosopher, Indian philosopher believes in this. Teacher should set example before the child of for discipline. If teacher is disciplined, child will automatically imitate him and become disciplined. So children imbibe more from the teachers own than they do from books and lectures. So books and lectures cannot teach discipline. So if discipline should be, he said very well that discipline should be caught, not never rather than taught. He wanted every activity in Indian school and college should include that like dance, drama, inter-school competition, inter-college competition to so that students learn how to sacrifice their personal and selfish interest for the sake of others and for the interest of the society. Swami Vivekananda wanted completely unfair discrimination between sexes. So he was in favor of women education and he wanted that every girl and child boys should be given same education because he says we all have same atman, same soul. Soul has neither sex. Soul is not girl or boy. So he suggested that not to think that they are men and women, but only think they are human beings. So best thermometer to the progress of any country is the nation is that its treatment of its women, and it is impossible to get back India's lost pride and honor unless they try to better the condition of women. Vivekananda considered men and women are two wings of a bird. and it is not possible for a bird to fly on only one wing. So, according to him, there is no chance for welfare of world unless condition of women is improved. Vivekanand suggested that women should be made ambitious through good system of education. He supported raising the status of women along with that of men. He felt that it was much against the ancient ideal of India. In ancient time, women are very much respected and given equal status in Vedic period. So he favored same education for boys and girls in modern India too. Man making education. Swamiji has given a new idea, not accepted information as education. He never said that education is collection of information. He advocates a type of education which is man making, life building and character formation. So education should also help in the development of originality. What is originality in man? So in originality, all human beings are very pious, good and good human beings. So it should unfold all the hidden powers in man. A child should learn to accept pleasure and pain, happiness and misery as equal factors, and they are the flow of life. So they come and go. So children should learn to accept them. Man making education also brings out the significance of the famous words said by Vivekananda at the World Parliament of Religions held in 1893 at Chicago. There was he. There these were he words of Vivekananda were help, assimilation, harmony, and peace. This can bring the world a peace, a place of peace and love. So accordingly, education should develop these qualities in man. Education and in Indian social context. Swamiji was always against the British system of education in India, which ignored the fundamental aspirations of our nation. Therefore, he advocated the introduction of national system of education on the basis of Indian educational and cultural heritage and national ideals. He criticized blind imitation of West. He was not against the science education and technology education. He favored the introduction of new things, but against the idea of replacing. So he wanted that Indian cultural heritage education, Indian traditional education should go together with the modern education of Western education. Vivekanand advocated for the national system of education in order to make minimum education available to all. He was in favor of educating all masses of India. Masses. He was in favor of education for masses and inculcate essentials of Indian culture in each and every child of the country. He wanted that education should start with the family of child. Then it should include village. First family, then village, then society, then country. Gradually, the development of international brotherhood or universal brotherhood will also develop in him automatically. Swami Vivekanand's view on education may be summed up in his own words. We want that education by which character is formed. First, character is based on character, strength of mind. And secondly, he is emphasized on strength of mind is increased, intellect is expanded, and fourth one is one stands for one's own future. Self-reliance is also the education's aim in terms of Swami Vivekananda. His great contribution in the field of education include self-knowledge, self-reliance, concentration, universal mass education, women education, physical education, man-making education, character-building education, education through the medium of mother tongue so that students can learn easily. So medium of instruction should be in mother tongue. Religious and moral education, value education, selfless, dedicated teachers. So all were his recommendations for education and his philosophy for education was was including all the aspects of the life of India. So, teachings of Swamiji are of great importance in reorganization of our present system of education. That's all. Thank you.